Hey everyone, I'm Michel Nevedo, and this is the Friday 420. My next guest, Dominique van Gruisen, is founder of Innexo, a Dutch-based cannabis research organization dedicated to deepening our understanding of cannabis cultivation. Today, we're going to be talking about some of the fascinating research Innexo is doing in seed fingerprinting, under canopy lighting, and the no-veg technique. We'll also hear about their most recent Acceleration Day, an event that brings together professionals, researchers, and innovators in cannabis cultivation science. Dominique, welcome.
Good to be back, Michelle. How are you doing?
Great to have you. Thank you, man. Doing great. So you created Innexo as a way to advance cannabis cultivation research. And one of the ways that you do this is by hosting regular acceleration days. And so these are events where people can come to your team, come to your facility and meet your team and learn about and discuss your research. So I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about the most recent acceleration day and some of the research that you covered.
Yeah, super cool. Innexo literally means connecting the innovations or connecting the innovators. And so I think it's really important that as a research company, it's not just about the research. That's great. It needs to be done. But it's also connecting the parties that actively do the research with licensed producers that are willing to implement the results of this research, being it technology, a product, or cultivation methodology. And so we're actively involved in all of those points, from sustainability, trialing new genetics, standardizing the cultivation output, lowering the labor intensity, and so on. And so by doing trials in the platform, in the room that we have here right now, where I'm in, we can basically scale down the research so that it becomes affordable without losing valuable data points or validity of research. But just doing research doesn't mean anything if there's no licensed producers to see it. So 4 times a year, we do what we call acceleration days. Our platform is called the Acceleration Platform for Innovation. That's one of the services we provide to this industry. And so we decided, okay, let's be transparent. Let's bring companies in, decision makers of companies in, and let's combine the knowledge, the know-how that technology developers have, that we have, that licensed producers need or desire. Right? We're based in the Netherlands, and it is common knowledge that the Dutch horticulture industry, it went global just because of this cooperation. And this is what we try to achieve with our acceleration days. So bringing everybody together so that there can be some boutique networking done, where we can have deep conversations, long form networking, and not just about the plant, but right here in the rooms with the plants. So they can actively see and experience what trials we've got going on. And so when they come back next time, they will learn the results of those trials. So it keeps them, engaged with research, with the new discoveries that we make in cannabis, better ways to grow, cheaper ways to grow, more standardized ways to grow. And I think that's really important. And this is actually why I established Innexo a couple of years ago. And story so far has been great. And the last acceleration day that we did was, it just gets busier and busier. So we started with the acceleration days in early 2023, and people come out second time, 20 people come out, then 40 people come out. Now we're over 100 people for the last acceleration day, and which is super cool, because the people who come are the people who are really interested in what's going on and where the industry is headed. It's kind of having, like, I would almost say, like a looking glass. So what's going to happen in the next couple of years? Great example about this is the use of non-top light forms of cultivation. So in early 2022, we started dabbling into intercanopy lighting. Right, we did a big trial with Fluence, and lo and behold, a couple of years later, people are introducing under canopy lights, experimenting with all kinds of different lighting setups, and I think that's great. I think that's great because different lighting methods light cannabis cultivation space, it can be much more effective than you think. Yeah, you can save a lot of energy. You can increase the consistency of your output, meaning your top flowers will be the same as your bottom flowers. You can basically give a plant any architecture that you want. And so this has been really exciting, and it's been I'm really proud that I'm able to showcase this to companies that may have read about this or have dabbled into it. And then they come here and they can see the research that we've done with it, and I can really have a heart-to-heart with them about what their needs are, what we do with research, without actually going there and implement them. So we work together with the crop advisors, with consultancy firms. One of our partners here with the platform is Avitas Global. I think you had my buddy Javi on, and so because they're close with us and they look over our shoulder to the trials that we're doing, basically having a helicopter view of what is interesting and what works and what doesn't work, without them having access to the proprietary data for our clients, but they can help implement strategies with licensed producers. And that's basically the connection. When I was, I've been in this industry for like the last 20 years, and before I established Innexo, I always felt there was something missing, right? Everybody's doing research. Every cultivation facility is doing some kind of research. Be it pheno hunting or testing out new lighting recipes or whatever. But
they don't share that.
Europe goes,
that information is
no,
kept.
exactly, and it's all these little islands, and our spirit here in the Netherlands is, okay, you can develop proprietary stuff, no doubt about that. That's mainly what we do for other companies. We develop proprietary stuff for them, but that doesn't mean you cannot share knowledge about like intercanopy lights. They work, right? But in a certain setting, it's most optimal. Like the No-veg, for example, that stuff just works. Yeah. Okay, there can be some tweaking here and there, and you need to take into account planting density, substrate volume, and etc. But this is the stuff that we're going to tell you, and not only tell you, we're going to show you. Before you experience that. Yeah.
Before we talk about No-veg, for the people who are just listening and not see the video, you're standing in front of an intercanopy lighting setup right now to kind of prove your point there. And there's a giant cannabis plant hung upside down that you just harvested before we started.
Check this one.
And this is the what?
This is original haze.
Wow.
So it might not be the best example of doing No-veg with seeds, but hang on, I got another example.
Okay.
So here there's another example of a seed plant that was, this is actually a crossing with the Moroccan cultivar. And so this seed was germinated the 1st of September.
No-veg.
So No-veg.
Yeah.
Right? Wow. And not even No-veg, lower than usual light intensity. So this is around 500 micromoles of light. Right?
So when we say, for the viewers and listeners, when we say No-veg, we're talking about the plants are going straight into flower, straight to a 12-12 cycle or cycle.
Yeah. So for your audience, there are basically two types of No-veg. One is with seeds, where you just germinate the seeds under a 12-12 light regime. So they don't see any 18 hours whatsoever. It works great with most of the seed varieties, like 95% of them, right? A great tip is that substrate volume matters. So if you grow a plant in a small pot, plant stays small. So the bigger your substrate volume, this is like 11 or 12 liters, which is 2.5 gallons, right? Like mixed soil. So that's no-veg from seed, or as we used to call it, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, 12-12 direct from seed.
I'm sorry,
And that's
Tom.
super easy.
Tom, what you're saying is that the density of the medium matters in terms of no-veg because
The volume.
why? What's the reason?
So the plants, when they are put on directly germinating under 12 hours of light, the first response of the plant is that it thinks to itself, I'm a short-day plant. As soon as they are shortened, I need to reproduce. So as it is born, it immediately feels that the conditions are generative. So it needs to build flower biomass. The more flower biomass it builds, the better its chances of survival as a species, that it can procreate and make seeds. So this is the initial programming of the seedling that emerges from the seed. So what happens if you restrict the root zone volume? So with a seed, we have what we call a taproot. So the radicle travels down as a taproot, and that goes really fast. Like it travels down before the seed pops above the soil. So what it's doing, it's kind of scouting on how much volume do I have to let my roots grow for my optimal flower production. So if I'm restricted in the roots that I can build, I will be, first of all, switching to flower faster, because as soon as I can, I want to be able to switch to flowering faster. And it kind of knows that this is it. This is the space that I have available. So the longer the taproot can search and those first lateral roots can search in the volume, the longer it takes them, the more vegetative actions the plants get, because it says, okay, I'm taking into account the above ground environment, I'm taking into account below ground environment, mix it all up. So internally, I know as a plant, I can grow maximum this big. And in order to grow this big and get the most out of my existence, so to speak, it kind of optimizes the leaf to flower ratio, if that makes sense. So basically, this plant that I have here, we have not trimmed any leaf of this plant, because every single leaf is performing a purpose. This is why I can get big buds like this. So the flower to leaf ratio, what we see with all the varieties that we do in the no-veg from seed, the leaf to flower ratio is optimized. So that just means less work for me, and if I don't touch the plant is basically happy and growing and doing its thing. So right now it's Friday. This plant is like 2 months old from germination. It's about ready to be harvested. That's 60 to 70 days for most varieties when you use this technique. So that means shorter cycles. It means less labor. It means more optimized production. And if you look at even the bottom flowers on this plant, they're not larvae. They're still quite good. They're not A grade quality, but they're definitely B grade.
Yeah.
And that's because the plant's optimizing its biomass production. And so that is one thing about no-veg from seed, germinate under 12 hours of light, get a good soil or substrate volume so the plant can be as big as it can be.
And would you suggest, sorry, Don, would you suggest putting the seed direct seeding?
Yeah.
For veg technique?
Yeah. Direct seeding. Yeah. Because if you
the
sow in
they have more volume to search for.
Yes. So if you plant in a small cup, you risk either that the taproot hits the bottom before the seedling emerges, right? If you just do an open germination, let's say in paper towels or in water, whatever, when you then transplant the small seed with the radicle popping out, you risk damaging that radicle. And every obstruction will limit the effectiveness of using this method. So it is very easy to do. There's just a small couple of things you have to take into account when using this no-veg method on seeds, but it works really well. So no doubt about that.
And you mentioned that certain varieties do better with this technique.
Yeah, but that is you cannot say that squat small varieties do not yield better when put in no-veg. It's you have some varieties that are very slow growing, right? I recently saw a video of a licensed producer in the US. He had to veg his plants for like 2 months before they were ready to be put in flower, just because they tend to grow so slow. And I think partly because of prohibition, the priorities for a grower have kind of shifted. I still like the fast varieties that grow fast, not necessarily flower fast or ripen fast, but that have that oomph, that growing power. Right? So it's definitely not for all varieties, but for the most varieties, this is a very suitable way of having quick production, lower cost, lower labor. There's you can top those plants twice even. I can take backup cuttings if I want to save the genetics. That's absolutely not a problem. But what I'm putting myself through is, lowering the labor, lowering the energy costs that's involved with the production of high quality cannabis.
It also opens the door for longer flowering varieties, cutting down the cycle for growers, and seem maybe even controlling the plant a little bit more in terms of height and growth.
Yeah. So if you're looking at like a long flowering variety, this is one. Try to just count a little bit. So this one, original haze, about 165 days of flowering time. So direct no-veg from seed. So yeah, I can do like 2 cycles with this plant. And if you grow in the same way that you would grow a traditional cannabis varieties, let's turn the camera over to this side, for example. Here you see clones, early stage clones. Then you have to think of different ways that I can get the yield that I want. So instead of getting the yield in one single lateral canopy, I go vertical. So because those varieties, those longer flowering varieties, tend to grow much more in the height, stretch much more, it kind of makes sense that their yield advantage would be vertical. So I take the example of tomatoes, for example, or cucumber. Here in Europe, they're grown high wire, which means we have like tomato and cucumber plants 4 or 5 meters high. If we are growing cannabis in a greenhouse where we have this big volume instead of an indoor facility, which is more limited in terms of volume, I wonder if it makes, and this is just open brainstorming, but this is where everything comes together. So if you long flowering varieties, you have the no-veg, be it from seed or clone, and you have different lighting strategies. So if I were to lit this plant that grows really tall, if I would lit it just from the top down, that plant will develop a lot of larvae flowers on the bottom, great flowers on the top. So if I take this same light source in terms of intensity, and I distribute it evenly across the different levels of a high-growing cannabis plant, then every level is lit equally. So in theory, the flowers that develop at each of these levels get the same inputs. So they should ripen with the same amount of cannabinoids, with the same yield, with the same flower density. That's the rationale behind it. And if I can get the same amount of yield in 3D, so using the height, so we're not talking about yield in square meters anymore. We're talking about yield in cubics, right, or cubic feet, or whatever is used as a metric. But then you add another dimension to it. But then it would be best, as we see now with research, to also adjust the lighting. Why keep that the same as you do with your normal cultivation? Doesn't make any sense. So these are all kind of things that we are experimenting with. for the sake of making this information public. This has a little bit to do with the trials that we do for our clients, in that the trials that we do for our clients here are also no-veg, but then from clones. So I wouldn't say we've optimized this system fully because we're figuring out new stuff as we go. But we have made it in such a way that it yields credible results in terms of the research. But the cycle time for the research is a lot shorter. We have less labor. So prices go down. So when everybody goes up in prices, I try to go down in prices, make research more accessible. And so everybody that comes through the facility here will tell them about the no-veg. They don't believe me. And then I show them the plants. And then I ask them, how long do you think that plant has been veg? Say 2 or 3 weeks, 1 week, no, 0. They're like, what? But so it's kind of coming together of different strategies, techniques, technology like LEDs now makes that possible. Like the LEDs that are behind me, a light bar in this case, these are Fluence LEDs. It's like one bar is 25 watts. So on a square meter of surface area on a table or a gutter, if I hang 8 light bars, I have like 200 watts of light. Instead, I would use a 630, 35 or 600 or 700 light from the top, which is 3 times as much. And through the trials we've been doing, funnily enough, if you give less input but spread it out in a better way, you actually save energy and increase your yields. So
I mean nutrition. Nutrients.
No, just electrical energy from the lights, just light energy. That's one of the limiting factors in cannabis cultivation. So if we bring a lower wattage light source closer to the plant, and then still have that spread equally, which vertically is quite hard to do. Then you can grow more sustainably, more efficient, and it could make these long flowering varieties, commercially viable to produce. Because let's not forget, it is not there in the market. There's, a few, beautiful companies doing this, like Bajolero. Shout out to Dave and Tony. That is, it is a niche market, but we work for the medical cannabis side of the spectrum, and there's compounds in those, longer flowering varieties that are just not available in the configuration that they're in those, right? And they can be super beautiful. They are truly. It's like another level from the run-of-the-mill commercial cannabis, the gelatos or Skittles or Z's or whatever.
For the people who can't who aren't watching, who are maybe listening to the show, I wanted to mention that behind you there's a grow table, and you had just harvested an original haze plant, beautiful plant. This may be less than 2 meters tall, the plant was grown using inter-canopy lighting, so no overhead lighting at all, just side lighting on the plant. How do you think that plant would have turned out had you not done no-veg and had you grown it with overhead lighting?
My greenhouse wouldn't be big enough.
You'd have to cut a hole in this.
Yeah. It was already going past the lamps, so I had to bend it down on a vertical net, but it was already growing past the lights. And actually, if I would stand next to it, I'm like 185. So this plant is 2 meter 15 centimeters. So it's definitely a big one, but it's stuff like this that make it fun to go to work every day. Even though you have to have a lot of patience in some cases, like in this case, but there's a lot of things that we can learn from other industries as a cannabis industry, and we try to showcase that it's not just about academic research into the the nitty gritty and the how and what, but it needs to be practically oriented so that growers and licensed producers can implement this in their cultivation. So imagine a licensed producer, switching from clones to F1 hybrids and seed forms, right? Doing the no-veg. Say goodbye to the mom room that can be equipped to be a production area, right?
Bedrooms.
Say goodbye to veg rooms, right? Or say goodbye to mom rooms altogether. If you're still doing clones, then no veg from clones might mean a little extra work in making some additional cuttings for a slightly higher planting density. Nothing crazy like 36 on a square meter or something like that. That's totally not the case. It's still like 6 to 12 plants per square meter, basically, depending on the variety. And so you can do like a bunch of extra cycles in a year, right? You'll experience you find techniques that will help you ripen your plants faster, or adjust the plant architecture based on your growing system. If you grow vertical, maybe you can add another layer, right? No huss and fuss with the trellising. There's so many advantages. I think it's it will take some time before the industry can adopt it. But this is why we do the acceleration days. Have people come over and we'll show them. We'll ask your questions to me or to my team, and they'll know what to answer.
One of the things you covered on your last acceleration day that I'm curious about is seed fingerprinting. I know nothing about this, so I'm very curious about it.
Yeah. So we last year. One of our sister companies has developed a technology where they can scan seeds with an array of different cameras, X-ray to hyperspectral cameras, and take measurements in a non-destructive way from seeds. So a seed is being pushed into a machine on a conveyor belt, and different cameras take different pictures with different wavelengths, different sensitivities of the single seed. And so they were successful in a bunch of different crops. And what they were successful at was correlating the spectral or the light-generated data from those seeds, non-cannabis, from these seeds, and correlating that to phenotypical characteristics of the plants that would grow from these seeds. So all the seeds that get scanned, a grow out is performed. So we can annotate the different traits. And mid 24, I found out about this, that they were successful in this, and they were successful actually for quite some time. So I thought to myself, okay, so in cannabis, because most of the seeds, give rise to different phenotypes, and good F1 seeds are the exception. But the rule is that if you pop 10 seeds, you get 10 different plants. Right? 3 of them will have purple flowers, 4 of them will have green flowers, and then we'll have some, 3 that are mixed in some ratio. So that got me wondering if this technology would work on cannabis or not. And so we did a proof of concept to see where this technology would be fitting for cannabis, and lo and behold, we found out it was. I was hoping it wasn't. Because now I have to erect a new service to create sorting algorithms for seed companies and for breeders, so that they can either speed up breeding. They don't have to sow out 1,000 seeds anymore. We can give you like the best 1,000 to go with, as an example, or make separate males from females. Create a market for all natural female seeds. So. That service we rolled out in March. We already did our first couple of projects. We were working with some large Canada-based licensed producers. We do some in-house breeding. We're working with different breeders. So it's exciting to see this going on. And that room is the room next door, and that's powered by Fos. So Fos has this great lighting setup, and we're going to get the tunable spectrum lights soon. So that allows us to kind of mimic the conditions from our client, so we can mimic the conditions in which the seeds are normally grown, so that our client doesn't have to grow them out, we do this. And we also do the annotation. We feed that data. We couple that with the spectral data, feed it into an AI program that was trained to deal with these data points. And then we can see if a variety is sortable, yes or no. And we can know what to sort on. And then we can take it very fast, actually, to high throughput sorting. So when we do the scanning stuff to collect the data, it's about 100 seeds, 100 seeds in half an hour, yeah, depending on the seed and the parameters we put in. But high throughput, we're talking about 1,000 seeds a minute.
Wow.
Yeah, that can be gone through, sorted at the same time, put in a baggie. There we go. What is important about this technology is that it is, in my humble opinion, it is going to serve as one of the quality assurance technologies in the cannabis seed world. So, for example, if you buy triploids, right? They cannot like do a DNA analysis of every single seed and then give the seed to you. That's destructive, right? So, but potentially you can scan those seeds, and if they're scanned and through the algorithm that we can develop, it turns out that we can separate diploids from triploids or tetraploids from triploids. That'll mean a huge boost in quality assurance for the cannabis seed industry.
Yeah, I know somebody who grew a diploid out a couple of years ago and ended up being a diploid.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's so fascinating though for me. So you can identify male versus female seeds.
Yes.
With the spectral analysis. Can you identify different phenotypes?
Yes.
Wow.
So what do you define different phenotype? Is that different color of flowers? We can do that. Is that different flowering time?
Wow.
We can do that, right? We've so far done like 6 different phenotypical characteristics, but they all pan out. So that leads me to firmly believe that if you have like a cup-winning phenotype that is maybe 1 out of 10, yeah, and you sell 10 seeds, and maybe if you're lucky, you get 1 out of 10 is really a keeper. But wouldn't the seed company rather say, hey, this is our cup-winning phenotype from this variety. We're going to charge you a little extra because the seeds would have been sorted, quality control, stamp on it, and you're assured that from those 10 seeds, all 10 are going to be that phenotype.
That changes everything, especially for everybody, but for home growers in particular who like to grow from seeds.
Yeah. And one of my, I want to basically find out if we can stop the spread of hop latent viroid through seeds. So if I buy seeds, I don't know, somewhere in the world, how can I be sure that they're not free of HVLD? And if we can find a spectral marker for this or conjoint traits on this, or maybe we see a little deformation in the root or the embryo through the X-ray, or maybe the chlorophyll fluorescence of the little seedling that's inside the seed is not responding well. That means if we can correlate that to the infection with hop latent viroid, that means we can create sorting algorithms for quality control. Then it basically doesn't matter. Of course, we have to do it with different varieties to find a common denominator, right? But if we can do that, then we can basically get rid of hop latent viroid in seeds altogether, just by preventing those seeds from coming on the marketplace.
Yeah.
Right. So this is something to really look forward to in the next 5 years. So it's gonna change a lot.
Yeah, it's gonna change everything. Very exciting stuff. Tom, can you tell us a bit about what is in store for the future for Innexo, future research?
Yeah, so we opened up registrations for our next 2 years of our innovation platform. Basically, so far it was opt-in, opt-out. You want to do a research trial, you're welcome to do so. But we decided over the summer to change it up a little bit and do basically an effort to reduce our pricing by 30%. And the way to do that is make use of scale and make use of um, operational fine tuning. So if I know that a client in the platform, we have different tiers now. We have an accelerator tier, accelerator tier, innovator tier, and platform tier. If I know that an innovator, which is a company that rents a research table and does research over a period of 2 years, you're getting 10 research trials, then I can lower the price, and I can lower the price significantly, right? And that means that we're making another jump towards efficiency, because we can roll out developments or research or demonstration programs. So let's say, for example, you're a nutrient company. You have one thing that you want to develop, but you also want to showcase. You can now do this for 2 years in a row. So you basically have 365 days of visibility here, a place where you can come with your clients and show them your technology. So the optimization of the platform, the retrofitting of the rooms, making it better, more professional, that we've got going on. Of course, the seed fingerprinting, which is super exciting. I mean, we've got people trying to tinker with reverse seed fingerprinting and all that kind of stuff. So they're really taking it. So that's really nice. We're doing a project for licensed producers that are starting up. So we can do the genetic selection and the pressure testing for them as well. Crop safety is a big issue also, and it's getting it's getting an increasingly big issue. Is that pesticides, for example, are not allowed in cannabis, but we see a bunch of products arriving that could mean a lot in this industry. So I look forward to those testings as well.
Interesting.
And slowly but surely expanding the team, trying to still be lean and mean, and getting the word out there, tinkering with the intercanopy lights, different integrated strategies. So there's many things to do.
What are you guys going to be tackling for the next Acceleration Day? Do you know
That's
yet?
a secret. Yeah, I know, but that's still a secret. So I can I'm really willing to share and be transparent, but that's still a secret. But it's going to be an experience for sure, because like last Acceleration Day, man, that was wild. We had some big names here, with Jorge Cervantes here, as you might have seen on the socials. Such a great guy. He was so emotional to see what was going on here, because this is not like a licensed producer. This is not like university. This is where the nitty gritty stuff is going on. So
I was talking to Jorge yesterday about this exactly, and that the fact that most of the research that is going on, almost all of the research that is going on, is being done by private companies, and they hold on to that information. It becomes proprietary, and so it's so refreshing to a lot of it, but it's so refreshing to have a company that's to share their information with the community so that we can all grow.
It's all about this. It's what we did back in the day in the forums. It's what we are as an industry. And I get the intellectual property, and that needs to be protected for sure. Otherwise nobody would make any money. There would be no incentives. But all the rest is so important to share, and even if it's just the basics, but people kind of need to know. They need to know that yes, a cannabis plant can do with a lot less inputs. Yes, we can skip the vegetative phase. That's stuff that people deserve to know. And honestly, I'm not the first one to to do this, right? Nor do I claim to have invented this. I want to spread the word, and the word is no longer, as the industry gets more mature. I want to bring what has been developed for the last 30 years, as long as the internet basically is around, when the cannabis grower forums are around, and they are still around. And there's also so much knowledge there, and so much trial and error and anecdotal evidence for this and that. that larger corporations are not paying any attention to because it's just a home grower. But guess what? So was I back in the day.
That's where it all started.
That's where it starts, and it is this mentality of that that little fish in the sea that has pride in what she is doing with cannabis, that wants to share it. And remember, back in the day, advice was to, yes, you can be on the forum, but try not to post as many pictures or delete pictures immediately or whatever, just to not get caught. But despite of that, the internet is filled with growth diaries and growth threads from all these different amazing genetics. So it's that same philosophy about sharing and making each other better. Because if I were a licensed producer, I want to be playing in the Champions League of cultivation, and that can only be if my competition is at least as good as I am. And
that's a good point.
Everybody deserves to be as good as they can be, because ultimately the patients deserve the best, right?
Yeah,
so
we do. Dominique, thank you so much. That's our time for today. Dominique van Gruisen is founder of Dutch cannabis research organization Innexo. Dom, it's been so great talking with you.
You going to Vegas?
I am not, unfortunately. I'm not going to make it this time. No, I'm going to miss you this time.
Too bad. Too bad. So, anybody's listening, hit me up in Vegas. I'll be at MJ BizCon this year. So,
find Dominique at MJ BizCon. Thank you so much, Tom. It's been great talking to you.
Right. Super cool, man. Thank you.
I'm Michelle, and this is the 420. Until next time.